Hey guys, it's Mason, and this is Wrestling in the Dark, the only professional wrestling podcast brought to you by a blind fan. It's time to take a look at this week's NXT, episode 507. There's a huge announcement regarding the NXT Tag Team Championships, a not so nice surprise for the Velveteen Dream, and Candice LaRae is in action. What happened? How good was it? If you want to find out, stick with me as I take a look through this week's NXT and see how it all panned out. The show kicked off with a massive announcement about the NXT Tag Team Championships, which were vacated last week. William Regal announced that there will be a fatal four-way ladder match for those championships between the Forgotten Sons, the Undisputed Era, the Street Profits, and the team of Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan. I'm really looking forward to this match, especially with its proximity to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Anyone who listened to my review of that will know that I sort of struggled with those ladder matches. The commentary let me down in a few places and didn't keep me as up to date as they could. I remember last year when they did the original NXT North American ladder match. I remember that I really enjoyed that match. But I feel like I've gained a new perspective over the last year, especially since I've started doing these podcasts. So I'm really looking forward to watching this Fatal 4-Way ladder match to see how it compares to the experience of watching a Money in the Bank ladder match. It'll be really interesting to see the differences in the commentary style and how they portray it and how they keep me up to date with what's going on, and whether I find it as confusing as I found the Money in the Bank ladder matches. I'm I'm really looking forward to having that experience. All of the teams in the match are fairly interesting. I've been getting into the Forgotten Sons, Undisputed Era, great. The Street Profits have been impressing me as of late, and the limited exposure that I've had to Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan has been impressive. I haven't seen too much of them, but I certainly have found what I have seen fairly interesting. They always put on a decent performance, and I think those competitors can put on a really interesting match, so it's going to be a good one. I'm getting really hyped for TakeOver 25. The show properly kicked off with an Undisputed Era promo. They hit the ring and Cole cut a really scathing, nicely delivered promo. He said that he's heard all the morons in the crowd whispering, asking questions about whether the Undisputed Era are going to break up, and he says that they're on the same page, they're stronger than ever, that pretty soon they're going to be draped in gold when O'Reilly and Fish win those championships at TakeOver 25. He says, "You may be an NXT superstar, but we own you." He says that they will take and do whatever they want, whenever they want, and they will not stop until they run NXT. I really thought that it was a really well delivered promo. Cole is really good at portraying someone who's arrogant and cocky, but somehow also incredibly insecure, as is then demonstrated by him saying that he's going to take Gargano's championship, which brings out Gargano himself. He says to Cole, "Tell the truth, you know that you could never beat me alone." Cole asks him what sort of idiot he is, and points out that at TakeOver New York he pinned him in the first fall. Gargano then gets really sarcastic and condescending and explains the rules, or the maths, of a 2 out of 3 falls match to Cole. Says it really slowly, that in a 2 out of 3 falls match you have to win 2 out of 3 falls, and Cole only won 1 fall. And I really like that the crowd was sort of getting into it with him. He was saying it not quietly, he was saying it slowly enough that the crowd knew where he was going, and they were able to join in with the 2 falls. This really annoyed Cole, and I like that. He was getting really defensive and angry, and like I said, I really like that he's, on one hand, he's really arrogant and cocky and fully believes in the Undisputed Era and knows they've got his back and he's indestructible while they're there, but as soon as someone starts challenging him and making a good point and showing that he's not as good as he thinks he is, he gets really angry and defensive and just starts getting really annoyed. And I just think that it was a really, really well put together and delivered promo segment between these two. I thought it was really good. At the end, Riddle ran out to attack Strong. Gargano and Riddle took it to the Undisputed Era for a bit before the numbers game eventually overwhelmed them. Then, a little bit later on, Regal announced that in the main event we'll get Riddle and Gargano versus O'Reilly and Fish. So I really thought that this was a really good way to kick off the show. Like I said, really well delivered promo from both guys. Gargano does a really good job of adjusting his character to who he's against, with the intensity that he showed against Ciampa and the confidence that he showed against Velveteen Dream. I feel like his character has come to this place, that sort of amalgamation of all of the people that he's had to be to beat the people that he's beaten, and now he's coming up against Adam Cole, and he's managing to out-mind game him, he's managing to out-talk him, and I just think it's a really, really effective story that's being told here, with just Gargano really, really believing in himself and being almost as cocky as Adam Cole, but in the way that he's also willing to then go and back it up. So, like I said, I thought that this was a really decent way to kick off the show. A 5 out of 6 segment. A short matchup between Sean Melua and Manso next. This was not a particularly special match. It didn't draw me in really at all, and I don't really feel that it had much to offer, especially in terms of story development. It was just a match that happened. Melua hit a heel kick and a Samoan drop. He got a near fall from a code breaker. Manso hit a slingshot net breaker, and then he hit a spinning suplex for the win. And those were really the only notes that I made for this match. There wasn't anything that was groundbreaking or stand out or even really that good in this match, to be honest. I'm sure that the moves were crisp and nice, and I'm sure the in-ring work was actually good, but in terms of what was actually going on in the match, I don't feel like it had too much to offer, and I don't really want to talk about it for too much longer than actually needs to be talked about. The commentary did a good job of putting over both men and explaining what they've been doing recently, of saying that Melua has been sort of all over the place, facing this person, that person, teaming with this person and that person, and they brought up the strong performances that Manso has had recently. It was a nice, solid win for Manso in a 3 out of 6 match. This next part of the show was probably my favourite part of this week's episode. I know that most people will probably have preferred the main event because that was an actual match, but I think this was an absolutely solid promo segment. The Velveteen Dream hit the ring and he started talking about being in high demand. He says people want to feel him, they want to touch him, they want to hold him, but he's the NXT North American champion, and frankly, he's too big to hold. And I really like that joke. It's got a nice double meaning to it. It doesn't have to go too far with it. I really like the style of Velveteen Dream when it comes to promos. There's only a few people that can make talking about yourself in third person work, and somehow the Velveteen Dream always manages to make it work perfectly. I really do think that he's going to be this generation's version of The Rock, but I think it's amazing that even if you make that comparison, it's really only a mic work comparison, because I don't think character-wise he's anything like The Rock, and I think that in itself is a real testament to how good Velveteen Dream is. As he's talking, Tyler Breeze makes his return to the Full Sail crowd, and they all go absolutely crazy, chanting Breeze is gorgeous and welcome home. And I like that is sort of that's the dynamic that Breeze has with the NXT crowd is that whenever he comes back, he gets that hero's welcome. They all consider it that his home, and they all give him a suitable welcome. He says that Prince Pretty's back. He says that since he's been gone, there's been cheap knockoffs and imitators, but since the fashion left NXT, it's been dull and boring, and he wants to come back and spice things up a little bit. And Dream welcomes Breeze into his NXT, and he says that the NXT universe wants a real man, not a boy. And I really like this too, because, well, Breeze is quite a bit older than the Velveteen Dream. For anyone who doesn't know, Dream is only 23 years old. Tyler Breeze is 31. And I still think that this really works with the way that the Velveteen Dream presents himself and carries himself. He is more of a grown man than the way Tyler Breeze has presented himself over the years. And he's got a much younger sounding voice than the Velveteen Dream. He's got more of an innocence to him than the Velveteen Dream does, especially with those double entendres that the Velveteen Dream likes to throw out there, whereas in Tyler Breeze is very much sort of like I say, he's just got an innocence to him. And Velveteen Dream throws out a really nice line, calls Tyler a dollar store detective, says that the crowd wants a real man, not a boy, especially not a boy who plays cops and robbers. He tells him that just because he couldn't hack it on Raw and SmackDown doesn't mean that he can come back to NXT and demand spotlight. That was a really nice line, throwing barbs at each other. It was so interesting. I was getting so into it. Breeze tells him that rather than not hacking it, why don't they say that it was more about being uninspired while he was on the main roster. But he's seen the Dream, he's seen that NXT NA championship, and they inspire him, and now he's back to take that from the Velveteen Dream. Dream offers him a selfie because that's the only opportunity he's going to get near that championship. Breeze deliberates about it and the crowd chants yes, and then eventually he says probably the best line of the promo. He says, when you write your phone number on your trunks and no one calls you up, no one's interested. And I think that's such a good line, because Dream's always going out there, always doing different things to get noticed, putting this and that on his trunks, and that's a nice callback to something that Dream's done that makes it look like Tyler has actually been keeping up with what's been going on in NXT. And I'm just so glad that he's back and they've actually gone with this match for TakeOver 25, because, I mean, Dominik Dijakovic would have been an okay opponent anyway, but with him going down, it was just like, who are they going to have him face? And bringing Tyler Breeze out like this and having him just try and steal the spotlight back from the Velveteen Dream to make it look like he thinks the Velveteen Dream is a cheap rip-off or an imitation of him, just trying to fill the hole that Tyler left behind when he left. It makes Tyler look... I think it makes him look really, really good, and it's good to see him being used again. And I just really hope that they keep him down there for a while, because there's nothing really for him to do on the main roster, whereas then there's plenty, I would say, for him to do in NXT. So I am really, really pumped for these two TakeOver 25, and I think that it might be one of my matches of the night when it comes down to it. This was another 5 out of 6 segment. I'm just really happy that I basically got exactly what I wanted. The Velveteen Dream versus Prince Pretty himself, Tyler Breeze. I am absolutely stoked for that. Candice LaRae versus Reina Gonzales was up next, and this was another fairly short, simple match, but it was probably slightly better than what we got between Melua and Manso, in my opinion. One of the things that I really liked about this match was Beth Phoenix. She seems to really come to life when the women come out. That makes her really relatable to me, makes her seem like she's actually passionate about women's wrestling. She does contribute to the other parts, but I just find that I notice her come alive a little bit more when the women come out. She talks about how much she likes both women, puts over their accomplishments and things that they've done, and I really like that she does seem to focus on the physical side of the wrestler. She talks about how big Rayna is, talks about the fact that she's almost 6 foot, but she says that she's got to prove how to use that size. She said that she knows from her own personal experience that facing someone much smaller than you is an interesting experience, but it's okay as long as you know how to use your strength and size. And I really like that. It really lends credibility to Beth that she can have that in-ring experience that she can bring up the same way that Nigel can. I think it works really well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her do a little bit more, get a little bit more fleshed out, get a little bit more comfortable, because I think in a couple of months' time, a year's time, she's going to be maybe almost even as good as Nigel. Probably not, because Nigel's my favourite, but I think that she's going to do really, really well. Like I said, this was a fairly short match, and it was all Candice LaRae. She went for a springboard crossbody at some point, but Rayna managed to catch her. However, Candice then countered that and sent Rayna into the steps. Candice was taking strikes to Rayna at one point, and the commentary was putting over how unusual that is. The fact that Rayna is usually the one that would be using heavy strikes, but Candice was overwhelming her with some flurries. She hit a missile drop kick, and then this annoying habit that the commentary seems to have picked up lately is that the finish of the match, they just didn't say what happened again. So they said that Candice caught Rayna and put her away, and it's just a little bit annoying. I think I've harped on enough about it, to be honest, but it's just, when you don't talk about the finish of the match, which is the most important part, I can't really enjoy it. But I don't think that there was a whole lot to this match anyway. It was just another one of those matches to give Candice a little bit of momentum. At the end, the 3 horsewomen, Duke, Shafir and Baszler, came out, and they started beating up Candice and Rayna. And then Io Shirai came out with a kendo stick and went absolutely batshit on the on all 3 of them. And I'm telling you, you could hear those cane shots, and they were fast and they were hard, and it sounded like it was messing up the cane. So I thought this was a fairly effective segment. It's just driving forward that story of Io Shirai and the horsewomen, and getting Candice a little bit involved. So the match itself didn't really find anything too special. It didn't really draw me in that much, and it is a shame. I wish that the women would have a little bit more time, but nonetheless, the segment itself was okay. It was a 4 out of 6. At least the Io Shirai stuff was really cool. Matt Riddle and Johnny Gargano teamed up in the main event to take on Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, and as you would expect, this was a pretty decent match. What else are you going to get out of these guys, though? Riddle always puts on a good match, so does Gargano, and I don't think I've ever seen an Undisputed Era match that I haven't liked. So this was suitably good, especially for the time it was given and the fact that it was just on an otherwise mostly unimportant episode of NXT. There was just a lot going on in this match, and there was way too many spots for me to lay out here because I made a lot of notes. But in the beginning of the match, Gargano and O'Reilly were in to start. They were technical wrestling, a lot of ground game. Morrow was going on about O'Reilly's MMA experience and his similarities to one of the MMA people that I can't remember the name of because I'm not an MMA fan. Someone Gracie. I didn't manage to catch it in my notes. But he was talking about the efficiency of O'Reilly's ground game, and I really liked that. I always like a good technical style. Eventually, Riddle managed to get tagged in, and it was mostly then about O'Reilly and Fish having frequent tags, trying to keep Riddle down, trying to work his midsection, which they were putting over as being really injured after the strong. But Riddle was coming out with his trademark intensity. I really, really like Riddle's character in the ring. I think it's just really... there's something quite captivating about it, in terms of he just seems so vicious, and you really wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of the stuff that he's doing. He was hitting some big palm strikes that you could hear. He got a double gut wrench at some point on Fish. He was going to go for the third one, but O'Reilly came in. He sidestepped O'Reilly and then gave him a few gut wrench suplexes, and I really like that. He was locked in an abdominal stretch at some point, but he couldn't quite get it fully locked in, so he managed to counter and get the near fall on O'Reilly. Fish and O'Reilly hit a double snap suplex on him at some point. Fish floated over into the cover. I thought that was pretty cool. Beth Phoenix had another nice call in this match. She said that Gargano was pacing the apron like a lion. I really like that. It paints the picture of Gargano just waiting to get tagged in. He did pick up the pace quite a bit when he got the hot tag a little bit later on, and that was fun. Towards the end, Riddle was back in. He was against O'Reilly, who went for a roundhouse kick that Riddle countered into a powerbomb. Adam Cole tried to come down, but Gargano intercepted him. Roderick Strong came down, and they beat up Riddle and Gargano, and that was sort of the end of it, really. It was just a really nice way to cap off the show. Really builds what's going on for NXT TakeOver 25. I didn't say earlier that William Regal, when he announced this main event, he did announce that there will be Riddle versus Strong at TakeOver 25. So it's really looking like Undisputed Era could come out of that pay-per-view really strong, but I wouldn't be surprised if they all came out on the bottom, if they all lost, or if a few of them lost and a few of them don't. They could go back to arguing again, but they could easily, if they wanted to give Cole that NXT championship, they easily could, and if they wanted to give O'Reilly and Fish the tag championships, they really could follow through with this. Undisputed Era is draped in gold, especially if the three that have gold to start with are Cole, O'Reilly and Fish, because that leaves Strong on the outside again and continues that story. And I'm just really, really excited for TakeOver 25, because it's going to be a really story-filled show, to be honest. You've got Io Shirai versus Shayna Baszler, and that's been building for a little while. Now you've got this fatal four-way match that I do have the sneaking feeling that Undisputed Era will come out on top of. You've got Riddle versus Strong, Cole versus Gargano, Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze. I feel like you do this every time with a takeover, where you go into it and you're like, God, this could be the best one. This could be the best pay-per-view that they've ever put on, and it's just the same thing every time. It's like, this could be great, and I'm just really, really pumped for it. I thought that this last segment, this main event, as much as I haven't gone into too much detail, I thought it was a really, really nicely called match. I thought there was some really nice spots in it. I really like that Beth Phoenix points out these visual things. That visual of Gargano pacing the apron, just waiting to get tagged in and attack his prey, you know, with his muscles all tensed up ready as he's walking back and forth. I feel like that's really illustrative, and it really paints a good picture of what's going on. And like I said before, I'm really looking forward to seeing how she develops with that sort of thing over the coming months. So yeah, that main event was definitely worth a watch, but it's probably, other than the Velveteen Dream, Tyler Breeze stuff, there was only really this Undisputed Era stuff that was worth watching. The two matches weren't really worth anything, to be honest. I think they were a little bit of a waste of time sometimes with these short matches that don't go anywhere. I just wonder if they could have just done something else. I don't know, but they weren't really worth a watch, and it is a shame because I want to see Candice LaRae in proper action rather than just these short little matches that are essentially squashes and don't really have anything to them. I was quite excited when she got with Casey Catanzaro because I thought, okay, they can be a women's tag team now and they can go from there, but there was no mention of them being a team at this point, and there was, there's no indication that she's going to be getting a title match anytime soon, so I just wonder what they're going to do with her. But the main event was a low 5 out of 6 match. Just didn't quite go into those high fives, but what do you expect? It's just a TV match. I really, really enjoyed it. Definitely worth a watch, but probably the only part of the show that was. So a mixed show then, all in all, that comes in probably around a 3 out of 6. I think in the grand scheme of things, if you wanted to skip this episode, you probably could. The Undisputed Era stuff was good, and so was the Velveteen Dream stuff, but I just wasn't really bothered about the wrestling. What were your thoughts, though? I would love to know. Let me know in those comments down below, and we'll have a little bit of a conversation about it. If you've liked what you've heard, remember to hit that like button, make me feel good. And if you want to stay up to date with Wrestling in the Dark, hit the subscribe button and that notify bell and you will never miss an episode. Make sure you're in the loop. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.